So Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse feels like one of those comic book films that stands as a milestone in the entire genre. After that seminal first film that seemed like it couldn't be topped, but somehow this movie masterfully improves on it in every single area. I have to admit that on my first watch though, I thought the first act of the film was a bit slow.
Boo this man!
However, yeah, there's a major turning point in the movie where everything hits the fan and it turns it up to 11. In retrospect, those early scenes are made even better by what happens in this one, and it just brings the entire movie together to cement the main themes of it. Now the scene I'm talking about is of course the chase scene in Nueva York. That happens at the midpoint of the movie. Throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down the build up to it, what happens in the scene, and also how it delivers on the theme set up in those early moments to knock it out the park.
Can't stop me now! You can't run forever, kid!
I can't lose one more friend.
Miguel, this isn't what we talked about!
You knew?
I have no idea what you're doing!
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
All stations, stop Spider-Man!
Now before we get to that bit, I think we have to discuss the themes established in the film at the start so we can talk about how they culminate here. After the intro with Gwen, we join Miles roughly 1 year on from the events of the first film. Being Spider-Man has taken a toll on his life and he's missing lessons at school, his parents' parties, and never really present. A defining scene in the film mirrors one from the first movie in which his teacher's trying to map out what he's going to be. The first movie had him working on a Great Expectations paper, whereas here he's seen as being a blank piece of paper. The teacher wants him to go and tell his story and define who he is rather than everyone else pushing it on him. Now we learn that Miles wants to attend Princeton, but his parents just want him to stay home. He even says to his father that he got to go out and start a business with his Uncle Aaron because he had a choice. Miles wants to study and explore the multiverse more, and Princeton seems to be the place that's gonna allow him to do it. However, everyone's trying to get him to do what they want him to do, and this is mirrored in the Spider Society that we meet in the movie. After arriving at the headquarters, he gets a big tour of the area and he meets the leader of the group in Miguel O'Hara. Dealing with the fact he lost his surrogate family through destroying an alternate reality, he's now bearing the weight of the world, or worlds, on his shoulders. He's bitter, angry, and making the difficult decisions in order to do what he sees as right. This comes with a cost though, and it means that certain people around every Spider-Man and Woman variant have to die. These canon moments define the character, and with Miles being a person who's set up as someone who needs a path, it works on an extra level. Now Miguel also works as a perfect opposite to Miles, as he shows how choosing the wrong path can eat away at his soul. Even though he reassures himself that they're the good guys, you can tell that he doesn't fully believe it, and he knows it's not a black and white issue. We of course have the Spot who's very black and white in how he views everything, and thematically it works so well to have these two as the movie's antagonists. Now Miguel is another person who's a pushy adult that's trying to tell Miles what his story should be. Whereas the teacher wanted Miles to define himself, Miguel and the other Spider Peeps want to enforce what should be canon. Surrounding him, almost like a mob, we get the idea that this is the personification of peer pressure, with all them having accepted these horrendous things have to happen because that's what the rules are. However, Miles is an anomaly in this, in that he refuses to back down and accept the fate he's been handed, which involves the death of his father. We're told that every Spider-Man has to have a close police captain who dies in the line of duty trying to save someone else, and this is something that's been seen throughout every iteration of the character. All the way back in Amazing Spider-Man 90, Captain Stacy was killed, and he did this while saving a child from some falling rubble. Since then, it's something that's gone on to be adapted in all different versions of the character, with Andrew Garfield's variant even taking spotlight in the film. However, it echoes throughout eternity, and it's something that's said to be absolutely necessary. Gwen has even gone on to accept that her dad has to die too, but we see how Miles' actions actually avert this for her. Come the end of the film, her dad decides to give up the badge, and this means that he won't actually die in the line of duty. Now not only has Miles saved him, but he's also saved this archetype in the Spider-Man India universe. Though that had disastrous consequences, it still shows that Miles is going against the grain and being someone who will save the police captain. That's obviously setting things up with his father, and Miles being this anomaly extends to the plot as well. We discover that Miles was actually never meant to be, and that the Spot actually took the Spider from Earth 42 through using the Kingpin's collider. The Spider-Man at the start of Into the Spiderverse wasn't meant to die, and this only happened because Miles got in the way. Miguel views Miles as being someone who shouldn't be, and thus he's an anomaly in not only autonomy, but also in terms of his origins. And that takes us properly into the scene in which Miles refuses to let his dad die. Told almost like a lecture, we see Miguel explaining how important it is that things stay the same. He wants to keep it all as this status quo, and have things play out like how they have 100 times before. Again, Miles goes against this though, and it very much represents the purpose of the character in general. Miles was brought in to change things up, and his introduction in the Ultimate Universe was done to make that book stand out from the rest. In it, Peter Parker died, and it was a bold move to do something like this and then replace him with Miles. Brian Michael Bendis, he could have easily stuck to the status quo, but instead he took a chance and had Miles take over the reins. Though there was backlash at the time, Bendis stuck to his guns, and Miles is now of course an extremely popular character. Now I also appreciate how even the themes of this film are nods to his overall creation. Miles is going against the grain and refusing to conform, and I don't think it's any coincidence that Spider-Punk is the person that he sides with. He's someone who represents not doing what society tells him to, and Miles choosing to heed his advice shows he aligns with his punk attitude. Punk and Miguel are sort of the angels and devils on Miles' shoulder, giving him the choice of who to go and follow. Although I'm trying to go very high concept with it in the video and explain stuff on an analytical level, the scene itself, yeah, just so f***ing cool in it. Just f***ing amazing. Absolutely loved it. Watching Miles escape the cell and then everything go crazy, it just blew me away. And even though I knew this chase scene was coming because of the trailers, it didn't prepare me for what I saw. Everything is thrown at him, and when the Spider-Cat attack happens, I thought that was as crazy as things were gonna get. When the T-Rex swung in, f***ing hell, and it just gets crazier and crazier the more things go on. Miles is public enemy number one, with thousands of spider people rushing him as he barely makes it through by the skin of his teeth. You've got the amazing Bagman going for him, Chibi Spider-Man in one of the corners, the Western one trying to do an impromptu draw, and one in a wheelchair dropping crutch jokes before we hit the 1960s one. It's one of those scenes that feels like you're gonna have to watch 100 times in order to see everything, and it shows how rich of a history that Spider-Man has. All these variants have appeared at some point, and to see them celebrated on screen like this feels like something else. Just ramps up the chase even more, and we get a bit of a breather when Miles is pulled aside by Peter B, telling him that he was the reason he wanted to have a child. You can see how Miles has had such a positive impact. Man gets told he's a terrible mentor, but Miles has turned out pretty good in the grand scheme of things, and hey Peter B, I still bloody like you. Now we realise that Peter B has been used as a way to track Miles, and thus he has to dive through some spinning cylinders in order to get away. The other spiders dropping off whilst Miles slips through could represent how he's managed to make it past the other variants that have dropped in the pop culture zeitgeist. Now the chase comes to a head when we watch Miles making his way to a train, travelling upwards right into the stratosphere. Told that he's not really a Spider-Man by Miguel, we hear him say, "I am Miles Morales, I was bitten by a radioactive spider." This is something that's used to open up lots of Spider-Man comics. It was used by Chris Pratt in the first film.
Hey there everybody, this is Chris Pine.
And it shows just how much that he's taken over the role. Miguel berates him though and explains that he's not really a true Spider-Man and that he's just a kid who doesn't know what he's doing. Held on his back and seemingly beaten, Miles reveals that he actually does know what he's doing and that he's led all the spider peeps away so that he can return to the base. At this point we get an incredible monologue that builds off everything we talked about before, and it just goes to show why Miles is this incredible person. Miles jumps off the train taking a metaphorical leap of faith, and this builds off the back of the first film. Finally he realises that he's gonna be his own person, and that he'll create his own story rather than it being dictated to him. Rather than sticking to the script or just becoming another Spider-Man variant, Miles is becoming his own man, and this is something that's been seen in the real world too. Miles could have easily become just another bog standard take on the character, but he's elevated himself much further beyond that. Finally he's getting the respect he deserves and showing why he should be viewed as a valid character. Works on so many levels in not only the film but also in the real world too, and it knocks it out the park, which is why I think the scene is perfect. Now obviously let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Is there anything else you took from it, and what did you think of the movie as a whole? If you want to support the channel for as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below, and as a thank you, you'll get early access to videos every week. We also have our merch store over at zeroedition.com, and this sells lots of different things like t-shirts, hats and more. We just launched a Secret Invasion / Pulp Fiction inspired t-shirt, so head over there and help us out if you want to support the channel. Now if you want something else to watch, then we have a video on screen right now going over every single vocal cameo that appears in the film. Definitely recommend it if there's anything you think you missed in the movie, which you might have because let's be honest, it's packed. And yeah, thanks for sticking through the video up until this point. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. You take care, peace.